Yeah. In fact, first of all, can I thank the Institute of Town Planners and also especially Mr. P.R. Silva for inviting me to this presentation. And again, I want to apologize that I can't be there. I was there in Sri Lanka about 3 weeks back, I was not in a position to come back again. But again, I want to congratulate you for organizing this conference. So I will just do a very short presentation, and the title of my uh, presentation is application of green concept to ensure sustainability in built environment. And I will make some comments, not just rather than going through the slides. I will make some other comments as well. First of all, in fact, about the Green Building Council, I had to just mention that the Green Building Council of Sri Lanka started in 2009, and a number of key people are in the audience, and Professor Anjit Disanayaka, who is basically kindly managing at the moment local management of the organization. And Mr. Shiromal Fernando will present the green rating system. I heard that after lunch. So I will make some comments which really giving the world scene, the global scene. There was a very good presentation I was listening from Australia on the energy side. But I will make some comments of how the world is moving and so on. So that's why I got this particular title. So next slide, please. Yeah, sure. And I know I'm watching on live streaming, but I know there's a slight delay, few seconds. We know that the carbon dioxide, again, is very obvious. The carbon dioxide levels are going up. And so there are no questions about the climate change and carbon dioxide levels. I have to say that I was in Beijing and few other cities recently, and in Sri Lanka, we are very fortunate that our levels have not gone up to some other, the levels in some other cities. So we can't say that the Sri Lankan environment is still, we can say, clean. And so we can basically compete with many Western cities as a clean city. And even recently, this came from one of my friends who visited from Australia, and they were surprised about the cleanliness of Sri Lanka. So I think so we are really basically moving into a very much different, in fact, different stage of development, and so we're very proud of it. And however, sustainability is the key for our future. So together, I think we have so I'll make some comments about how which is relevant to Sri Lanka and also to the world. Next slide. And the temperature change is quite obvious that there's a global average temperature change. And so this graph, we don't have to worry about the detail, but there's obviously a global temperature change. Next slide, please. Again, I will make sure that this presentation is available to the attendees. So I won't read each and every slide. And the next slide, I have the global warming and climate change. And it is mentioned that it's not only the average temperatures, but most of the disasters are due to the climate change. And recently, there was a disaster in Philippines. You may have all heard many lives were lost, and the Philippine government, clearly the president, in fact, was asking the world to help them because they were particularly commenting on the climate change affecting all the nations. So it's very important that it's going just beyond how important sustainability is. It's just going beyond the poverty levels or any other economic levels. Professor Ranjit Disanak, I was listening to him, and he was mentioning them as well. The social sustainability, economic, political, all that sustainabilities. So it's quite important that we cover that. Next slide, please. So we can take some action, and again, I'm very brief here because of the limited time I have. And the green, sustainable green infrastructure, including buildings, is an urgent priority. And here I have listed some sustainable buildings, the electricity, agriculture sector, the transport sector, and the forest as well. So it's really much more beyond just we are talking about the buildings. And so we are, in fact, I know it's more of Town Planners Institute could make a huge contribution to this particular area. Next slide, please. So we have internationally, it's a global challenge, and we have a fierce urgency now to really tackle the sustainability problem. Next slide, please. We haven't really, in fact, there's a talk around the world, why not tackle the world poverty, then the climate change? And it is not, because unless we tackle the climate change now, so the plight of many of the poorest will be worse. So we can't wait until we get rid of the poverty in the world to really introduce sustainable concepts. So we have to start moving urgently. Next slide, please. So again, that we have to tackle both together, economic issues as well as the sustainability or the climate change issues. The solution to climate change is the sustainability, greening the environment. And we had in 1970s that we had, in fact, Sri Lanka has done very well. And one of the first countries to introduce sustainable concepts. So it's not new. And I was also involved in Australia, the Green Building Council from the beginning. And we know that in Sri Lanka, even these, we started talking about sustainability before even other countries. So Kandalam is a good example, had the platinum rating at that time, long time back. So the buildings and the next slide, sorry, so we are talking about the CO2 emissions by the sector, and the buildings come number one. And I'll give a graph, the next graph. Transportation and industry, the next. So next slide, please. So basically, the green buildings can reduce the energy use by between up to 50%. Carbon dioxide emissions up to very large levels, 40% or more sometimes. Water use can be very large amount. And also the solid waste. The solid waste by about very large percentages. It could be even 70%. So just a very quick introduction to the Green Building Council of Sri Lanka. And Mr. P.R. Silva is one of the very important directors as well of the organization. And it's if you, in fact, if you want to get to know a bit more, of course, Professor Disana is there, and Mr. Shiromal Fernando will be presenting later on the green ratings. But I want to correct something that was presented by the previous presenter from Australia. In fact, the green ratings, the Sri Lankan ratings are really have, in fact, are a lot more popular than the other rating systems, including the LEED in Sri Lanka, because we, in fact, got a lot of good things from different rating systems around the world. The Green Star, and so on, Green Star, the lead, and all that, and then came up with a local system, so which is really very suitable for local conditions. So the green rating system, which Mr. Shiromal Fernando will present, and in fact, we have a very active Green Building Council in Sri Lanka. We are very proud to say we are part of the World Green Building Council family, but we are one of the people committed that other councils committed that Sri Lanka Council is one of the most active councils in the world now. So we are had to be very, very proud about our achievements last few years. And this institute is, in fact, town planners also is one of the key members of the Green Building Council of Sri Lanka. Next slide, please. And in fact, the Green Building Council my talk is not on that exactly, but basically achieve many things, helping the market transformation. I will have some comments in the next few slides, and provides tools and experts together, also building a sustainable community. And again, town planners, quantity surveyors, architects, engineers, all are basically are part of that Green Building Council Sri Lanka family. So we are all together, and we try to achieve that. And as Professor Disanayake mentioned, we have got very good political backing of. We know His Excellency President's vision also includes sustainability as one of the main, in fact, one of the main ingredients for success of Sri Lanka or the development. So we basically get the blessing of the get the blessing of politicians from of different all parties in this case. So we are very, very proud of that. And in fact, also we are talking about education. The Professor Sanaka is running that, so he can mention that during the break, and also the forums for the industry. Next slide, please. So Sri Lanka Green Building Council is part of this World Council family, which includes the US, UK, Australia, Singapore, South Africa, Malaysia, India, Indonesia, and many other countries around the world. So there are about 70 other countries, and we are one of the, as I said, one of the most active members. So we are basically running, we are basically part of greening the global environment, and coming from, starting from Sri Lanka. Next slide, please. Just some comments before I finish off. And I think this slide, other speakers have also mentioned. So the built environment, it is a problem. In fact, building more buildings and other infrastructure affects the environment, but this is the part of the main part of the solution. So we in the industry, construction or the infrastructure industry, we are the solution to the sustainability. So that's why this particular conference is that you are attending is very, very successful. Next slide, please. Now, I'll be very brief here. There are many economic drivers to have green buildings and other infrastructure. I won't read each one, but again, I want to correct what the comments from my Australian colleague who spoke before. In fact, in some states in Australia, they won't rent any buildings. The government won't rent any buildings if you don't have a higher rating. So, so it's not just voluntary. People can't rent buildings in Australia. In many states, if there's no green rating. So that's why it's quite important that it becomes mandatory. Malaysia, I know they are having a tax incentive. So I'm sure Sri Lanka, we will achieve that as well. So there are many economic drivers. The buildings and other structures, green structures, get higher rents. And I know Sri Lanka is also moving towards that. So hopefully we will have all the future buildings in Sri Lanka and other infrastructure having a green rating. Next slide, please. Again, I won't read this particular slide. If you don't do anything, we will have all those problems, the cyclones, the uh, uh, and and temperature rise, sea levels, all that. So we have to do something. Next slide. And I will skip this slide because I have already covered that. I want to just save time. I will skip that slide. So globally, the building sector constitutes about uh, uh, we know the construction industry is one of the most important industries in the world, and the global consumption and GDP constitutes between 10 to 40%. So that's why we are the most important in terms of greening the environment. And this audience, I know there are many in the audience who are contributing to that already. So the other thing which has happened in countries is that the green the employment or the jobs in the green industry have skyrocketed or exponentially increased. I know Europe and then also Asia. And when I was in China about 3 weeks back in Beijing, and even there are they're advertising for sustainability related employment. So that's why training is so important. Prof. Sana was mentioned that in his talk. Next slide, please. Just want to read what Mr. Jerry Udison said of the U.S. Council. And if you're not involved with a new project, and if you're not making it as green and low energy as possible, and it will be functionally obsolete and economically disadvantaged for its entire lifetime. So, in fact, every project these days had to be really had to be green. And I know when a project starts, the first thing we talk about these days is the green side, the sustainability side, and then we talk about the engineering, architecture, all that construction, the town, the planning, all that quantity surveying, all that we talk about after the sustainability side. They're all linked. Then I will actually first skip this slide and go to what something new I'm doing, which I'm managing this particular project called Mutopia, and we are building, have built a design and simulation platform, which is really very important for sustainable precincts. So, which I'm in fact slowly introducing that to, will be introducing to Sri Lanka as well. It is really a platform where using the GIS type of technologies, we know that the GIS systems are growing, and at the bottom we have the building information modeling. I know building BIM is becoming popular in Sri Lanka as well, and uh, in fact we have GIS is mainly for city type of environment. BIM is for buildings or the infrastructure. So our work is trying to have a platform built in the computer to really combine the BIM and the GIS. So one of the next slide, please. Again, I won't take time explaining that, but just to give an idea of the output. So this one gives the output for the sustainable precincts program, and so it's really combining GIS and giving the output for a particular project. So that will give an assessment and the quantities. The whole world is a little bit behind. We talk about the qualitatively the ratings and all that, but however the quantifying that, the quantities. That's why we need quantity surveys, the planners, the engineers, architects. We need to quantify that. So this is really a first step towards quantifying sustainability and giving some carbon dioxide emission values and so on. So with that, just best wishes for the conference. I don't want to take too much time. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you very much.